Hey everyone, Jason from Alphatone Audio back again, and today we're going to do another installment in the series Parts, where I take 3 random parts or tools from around the workshop and talk about them. What's not to like? First up, we have the chopper from Northwest Shortline. Now, I got this because I was looking for better results on cutting my own heat shrink at home. I wanted nice, sharp, 90-degree angles for a really professional look on my cables. And I was just doing it with various techniques on the workbench, which none of which were particularly fast or repeatable or just have the quality level I was looking. So I was definitely looking for some kind of tool that I could use to get a faster and repeatable quality result. So, and I didn't really find a lot of stuff, but I did find this. And Northwest Shoreline, they're a hobby company, and they cater, I believe, to people that are really into model railroads and that kind of thing. And this is actually designed to cut like small pieces of balsa wood for models and that kind of thing. But it kind of looked like what I needed, and I got on Amazon for about $22, I think. And I'll put links in the description for all this stuff. And it's turned out to be a pretty good tool for me. It's metal, so it's pretty sturdy. You put it down, it's sits flat on the desk. And I'll tell you, one of the things I really like about it is that it just uses these standard razor blades, which you can buy 100 packs of these all day long for, around $10 or even a little bit cheaper. I did find a couple other things, and they all either had smaller blades or some kind of proprietary part number that made it just more expensive and more difficult to source than I really wanted. So operation on this is pretty simple. Basically just stick a heat shrink in there, line it up along the edge, drop it down, and you get the cut. And it comes out nice and clean every time, assuming you keep a sharp blade in it, which is easy because it just uses the scraper blades. This is 3/4 inch heat shrink, which is about the biggest you can put in here until just the width of the heat shrink exceeds the width of the blade. Now, the one thing I don't like about it is that I tend to cut up to 4 inches of heat shrink on a regular basis, and this is really only optimized to go up to about 2.5. So what I end up doing is just a super easy modification is I just end up taking a smaller ruler and just kind of taping it down on one side here, and then that easily gets me out to my 4 inches. And basically just, instead of using the gauge on the top, you're using the ruler to determine your length. So while it's certainly not perfect for what I need, I haven't stopped using it. I've been using it on a regular basis. And like I said, until I can find something better that I don't have to do the ruler trick for, or maybe something that's even just like a little bit more compact, or just something I'm going to end up building, I have no problem using this in the short term. Next thing I want to talk about are paper rulers. Now, I think I usually have it out of the shot in my videos, but if you can see down here, I have a ruler that's literally made of paper, and I have it permanently taped down to my desk. And I have this on here all the time. And one of the reasons I have that is because whenever I do cable orders for my customers, I do a lot of variable length stuff. So someone might order a 9-inch, a 12-inch, a 15, a 17, whatever. And so I'm always just cutting cables to different lengths. Having something like this, it takes up no space, yet is also readily available. It's just very quick, easy, and efficient to make sure I get my cable cut and get the assembly process started. But what's really handy is if you just kind of really just run with this concept. And I get these from IKEA just because there happens to be one in my town. But if you don't have one, you can find these like in like the fabric section of like a hobby store or something like that. Sometimes you even use like a fabric measuring tape for fitting clothing or something like that. Or if you just do a Google search for printable paper rulers, you will find hundreds of options very quickly and easily. Print them out on a standard 8.5 inch by 11 paper, or whatever kind of printer you have, whatever size you need. You get English, metric, whatever you need. But if you really start to run with the concept of these, what I really like about them is that you can put them anywhere. So let's say I want to sit down and I need to make like 50 cables in a row. And I'm just going to do like, guitar cables or pancakes or something like that, where my strip length is really consistent. And I just know that I need to strip a 1/2 inch off or something like that. You can put it wherever you want. And you could even just, tape it down at like at a slight angle, which is just a little bit more ergonomic for your hand when you bring your cutter in to do your stripping, as opposed to, down here where it's just straight across. You have to angle your hand quite a bit. It's just a lot more comfortable. And then if you don't need it anymore, or you just kind of find it distracting, or you want to just put a different size or a different unit of measure or whatever, all it costs you is one piece of paper and a little bit of tape. So I use these all the time. Now, I used to have this one down here, but if I'm starting to get into more of a habit of always just putting getting one here when I have a large job or I have a lot of prep work to do. I get it exactly where I want it. So I'm sitting down and I'm in a comfortable position. I can do all my prep work and I can just pull it off the workbench so it doesn't distract me. I can move on to other things. Highly recommended, nearly free tip you can use to just get more comfortable setup on your workbench and just get more accurate, repeatable work. And last but not least, I want to revisit do-it-yourself DC power connections for your pedal board a little bit. And I say revisit because a couple months ago, I did a video called DIY DC where I talked about a few of the parts and a few of the options out there for doing your own power cables on your pedal board. And the reason I did that is because while pedal boards tend to get bigger, I don't really notice that manufacturers include longer cables along with their power supplies. So sometimes you may have to build one just if you need one that's extra long, or if you just want to do a bunch of custom length on your board just to make sure that everything is nice and neat, then DIY is probably your best option for it. And really, it's not that much harder or any harder at all than just doing your own audio cables, which is pretty standard. So the reason I bring this up is because I've kind of changed out parts a few times on both the cable and the plug-in since I did that video. And I also had some part numbers changed. And I think anyone that's done electronics for any period of time, you know that part numbers kind of come and go. They go from one manufacturer to the next. You're always looking for substitutions, that kind of thing. I had a similar problem happen with these. These were my favorite 5x5 millimeter by 2.1 millimeter, DC connectors that you see on all the power supplies and all the pedals. I was using these Kobicons for the longest time, and they were fine. And all the ones that I tried, and I would normally order like 6 or 7 of these different ones. I would try to find ones that I liked. And honestly, I don't like most of them. No one really makes a good one. But these were at least the least offensive to me, meaning that they had a decent amount of area where you could actually get your cable soldered in there for good connection. They had nice solder tabs where you could actually wrap all the way around the cable. And they weren't too big, they weren't too small. They were just, out of all the different ones I tried, these ones were my favorite. And again, these were the Kobicons, and I think they're pretty popular. Of course, I went to go order these not too long ago, and I was getting used to Mouser, which I normally don't order from because for the parts I use, I find them to be pretty expensive. But this was, the price was good enough for these ones. Went back to order them, and it turns out that the lead time on the part had increased to a really long time. It was like 6 or 9 months. And I thought, well, maybe these are just going to go away. So I went around, I started looking at some of the different parts in the catalog, and I found what looked to be an exact same part. However, this one came from Schruter, which is a really large Swiss manufacturer of power interconnections. They serve lots of different industries. They've been around for a long time. And I had actually looked into some of their higher end, just Edison type plugs for a while. So I ordered one, I gave it a shot, and it looks to be exactly identical to the Kobicon in every single way, in shape and form factor, and even the only text that is on it whatsoever is you see the word Japan on the shield here, and then you have the word Japan that's stamped here on the actual plug. So I'm just kind of saying all this to say I'm going to just put these part numbers in the description, just like everything else in the video. Just if you're looking for some of these are the ones that I like to use. And on the cable side of things, I end up settling on these. Instead of just buying bulk wire, I actually started getting these, which the standard 45 degree, again, 5x5 by 2.1, just molded on one end, and you get bare tin connections on the other. And it's a 6-foot cable, so the thought process behind these is you just cut off as much as you want, you take your end, and you just terminate it on there, and then there's your cable. You don't have to necessarily scrap whatever you cut off here. There's nothing to say you couldn't actually just put 2 ends on it. So I tend to actually recycle as much of the cable as I can. And again, you can get 45s, just not from Kobicon or Schruter that I know of, but I don't really like them. I just haven't found a part that I really, really like yet. That's why I settled on these, just because these tend to be small and compact, and it's one less thing that I have to solder. Again, I will link to the older DIY DC video if you want to take a look at that, as I did talk about a few other things in there that if this interests you, that video may interest you as well. So that's it for this one. If you found this video to be helpful, I would appreciate a like and a subscribe. And until next time, take care.